On the eve of our wedding, Gunan's white moonlight and I were both taken hostage by robbers. The robbers forced him to choose between the two of us. Without a moment's hesitation, he chose his white moonlight and abandoned me. I met a gruesome end at the hands of a robber, who slit my throat and left my body in pieces. Given a second chance at life, I decided to step aside and let their love story unfold. When Gunan brought his cherished first love home and proposed letting her stay in our marital home, I nodded in silent acquiescence. Well, it's more fitting for her to live there than for me. I am Su Yao, a female educated youth sent to the countryside. 5 years ago, I fell into the water, and Gunan happened to be passing by and saved me. I fell in love with him at first sight. For him, I moved into the Gu family home, enduring all the skeptical and disdainful looks, and devoted myself to caring for his bedridden mother. Touched by my sincerity, Mrs. Gu insisted that Gunan become engaged to me. After 5 long years of waiting, we are finally getting married. The wedding is in just 2 months. A few days ago, Gunan called to say he was transferring from the military to the local police force and that we should get ready. I arrived in the county town with a heart full of joy and rented a single-story house with a small courtyard. The house wasn't big. Besides the main hall and the kitchen, there were 3 other rooms, all completely empty. I spent 3 whole days running between the supply and marketing cooperative and the junkyard, gradually filling the entire home, piece by piece. There are 3 rooms, one of which is used as a study. I put a small sofa in there, which I'm using as my temporary sleeping nook. Another room belongs to my fiancé, Gunan. He prefers things simple and clean, aside from a desk and chair. There's only a simple plank bed inside. The last and largest room is our bridal chamber. Even though the wedding is still a ways off, I couldn't wait to start setting it up. A red silk quilt embroidered with mandarin ducks, a large floral enamel basin, a thermos flask with the double happiness symbol, and red paper cuttings on the windows. The entire room is awash in red, every corner radiating a joyful, celebratory air. All of this was rightfully mine. What a pity. I have to go now. I have been reborn. I woke up this morning and found myself 2 months before my death. In my past life, I gave everything for Gunan, but on the eve of our wedding, a ruthless robber took me and his beloved white moonlight hostage. The robber forced Gunan to choose. He could only save one of us. Gunan chose his first love without a second thought. While I met a gruesome end, my throat slit by robbers. The moment I died, I was reborn. The agony and despair of having my throat cut are still vivid in my mind. In this life, I refused to meet the same fate, so I decided to leave Gunan, to step aside and let him have his love story with the one who got away. But years of shared feelings aren't something you can just let go of in an instant. Standing there, looking at the wedding-ready home before me, I couldn't help it. My eyes welled up with tears. After a long pause, I finally closed the door. I was just about to go to the study to pack my things when a commotion arose in the courtyard. Soon, a tall figure in a military overcoat entered, leading a woman and a young girl. It was Gunan. He had returned from the army. I know that woman too. She's Gunan's first love, Bai Shan, and also the wife of his comrade-in-arms. Gunan's comrade-in-arms passed away in an accident not long ago. His wife, Bai Shan, couldn't get along with her in-laws and was also looked down upon by her sister-in-law back home. With no other choice, she had to take her daughter and follow Gunan back to his place. Hello, sister-in-law, Huan. Say hello. Bai Shan, wearing a blue and white checkered coat, greeted them with graceful ease. However, her daughter Huan pouted and turned her head away awkwardly. Bai Shan looked embarrassed. This kid, I'm so sorry, sis. It's fine, I replied flatly. A child's behavior is learned from the adults around them. There's no point in getting angry at a child. After we had briefly introduced ourselves, Gunan led me into the study, and the first thing he said was, Su Yao, Bai Shan is a friend of mine. She's having a very hard time raising her daughter alone right now. We should help her. Hearing those words again, I could only find it laughable. A man about to get married goes to help a widow with a child. If word got out about this, everyone would gossip behind his back. Yet, Gunan puts on a righteous front, looking every bit the Good Samaritan. If you didn't know what he was really thinking, you'd easily be fooled by him. In my past life, that's exactly how I was. I foolishly helped others, only to meet a tragic end. Fine, go ahead and help them. It doesn't matter anyway. I've already decided to leave. It doesn't matter anymore. Gunan was very pleased with my reasonableness. Su Yao, I knew you'd agree. You've always been so kind. I let out a bitter laugh inside. The good often meet a tragic end. How bitterly ironic. The moment he stepped out of the study, Huan, Bai Shan's daughter, came skipping over. she tugged at Gunan's hand, swaying coquettishly as she pleaded, "Uncle Gunan, I want to stay in that room. It's so pretty inside." She reached out her hand, pointing toward the bridal suite. My heart skipped a beat. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. Gunan smiled, patted Huan's head, and said with a doting expression, "All right, you can stay, as long as you're happy, Brother Gu. Is this really okay, after all?" Baishan walked over, her face a picture of hesitation, as if she had something to say but couldn't bring herself to say it. This was her usual trick, always leaving sentences half-finished, forcing others to take the initiative and ask. Gunan, afraid she might feel slighted, cut in with a sweeping gesture. "It's fine, you're welcome to stay." Suyao won't mind. After he took in the layout of the bridal chamber, his expression remained largely unchanged. "Suyao, Baishan and the others are just staying for a few days. I'll get them settled elsewhere and they'll move out soon. Don't worry." I nodded in silence. "All right. It's more fitting for her to live there than for me." Gunan's expression faltered, his brow furrowing. "Suyao, don't let your imagination run wild, okay? I've told you, Baishan and I are just friends." I didn't say a word. In my past life, I hadn't agreed, and we'd had a huge fight. Gunan said I was being unreasonable and didn't know what was important, but now I'm doing exactly what he wanted, yet he still finds other reasons to scold me. There's a saying that's right. When there's no love left, even breathing feels like a mistake. I turned around and went straight back to the study, just as Gunan was about to follow. Baishan stopped him. "Brother Gu, I think your wife isn't happy to see us. Maybe I should just take Huan and leave." Gunan immediately became agitated. "Where do you think you're going? You're in a strange place with no connections. Where could you possibly go? All alone with a child." Baishan, "But what if sister-in-law gets upset? What if she leaves in a fit of anger?" Gunan snorted coldly. "Don't worry about her. Where could she even go? Without me, she has nowhere to turn." In an instant, my heart turned to ice. Gunan was right. I truly had nowhere to go. I'd been an orphan since childhood, raised by my aunt and her family. Back then, to repay a debt of gratitude, I took my cousin's place and went to the countryside in her stead. Not long after arriving, I accidentally fell into the water. Gunan saved me, and afterwards, I moved into his home. All these years, I've been busy taking care of Gunan's mother, so I never grew close with the other educated youths in the commune. If I were to move back suddenly now, it would surely give people plenty to gossip about. As for the Gu family, Mrs. Gu's health has mostly recovered, but she remains quite frail. She treats me very well, just like her own daughter. I don't want her to find out about this awful business, lest she gets upset and her condition relapses. Originally, I had planned to stay at the guest house for a few days, but now, right in front of his beloved, Gunan is belittling me like this. Suddenly, I don't want to leave anymore. I can't accept this. I gave him 5 years of my youth, dutifully cared for his widowed mother on his behalf, and wholeheartedly prepared our marital home, only for some outsider to swoop in and reap the rewards. I don't know where I found the courage. I gathered up the clothes in a heap. I opened the door and walked straight into the bridal chamber, right in front of the three of them. With a loud bang, I slammed the door shut. Outside the door, Huan's crying and Baishan's comforting words instantly erupted. Gunan, furious, pounded on the door with loud, insistent thumps, demanding I open it. I buried my head deep in the pillow, shutting out the noise completely. Fuming, Gunan left with a final, threatening ultimatum. "Suyao, you've got some nerve." Not long after, I heard the sound of the courtyard gate closing. It was Gunan, leaving with Baishan and the others. I turned around, lying on the warm, crimson quilt. My heart was filled with a bitter ache. Gunan wasn't like this before. Even though he had no interest in me at the very beginning, but after 5 years of my persistent pursuit, he gradually grew fond of me. Gunan was very busy with his military duties, rarely coming home, sometimes only once every year or two, so, every month, it was always me who called and wrote letters to him. It took 2 years for his responses to shift from impatient replies to tenderly calling me Io. For the following 3 years, he would take the initiative to write to me, sharing interesting stories from his life in the army. Sometimes we'd talk on the phone for so long that the receiver would get warm. Every time he came back, he'd give me a big hug and take me to the state-run restaurant for a nice meal. Everything was moving in such a wonderful direction, but Baishan's appearance completely threw Gunan's heart into turmoil. Baishan is a nurse, known for her pretty looks and cheerful personality, making her quite popular in the military. Gunan once had feelings for her. However, after Baishan chose another man from a well-off family, those feelings were buried deep in his heart. Baishan is Gunan's good friend, and also the unattainable white moonlight of his heart. If her husband hadn't died unexpectedly, Gunan would never have crossed the line, but now, he had lost all control. Defying public opinion, he resolutely brought Baishan and her daughter home, completely forgetting that I, his fiancé, was waiting for him there. In the end, he even abandoned me for his white moonlight, leaving me to die with everlasting regret. I should hate him, but I just can't bring myself to. If Gunan hadn't saved me, if I hadn't fallen for him at first sight, if he had never cared for me at all, I could have easily steeled my heart and taken my revenge on him. But the unfortunate truth is, all of those things really did happen. I couldn't bring myself to be that cruel, so leaving was my only choice. My gaze drifted to the calendar hanging on the wall. 10 more days, the university acceptance letters will be sent out. In my past life, for Gunan, I tore up my acceptance letter without a second thought and settled down to wait for marriage. In this life, I won't be that foolish again. 10 days will be here before you know it. When that time comes, I can leave this place for good. The following day at noon, Gunan returned, holding an oil paper package in his hand. You haven't eaten yet, have you? I saw the state-run restaurant selling roast duck, so I bought one for you. I was a bit taken aback. Just yesterday we were giving each other the cold shoulder, and today Gunan buys me a roast duck. This isn't like him at all. Whenever we used to argue, Gunan would never be the one to make the first move to comfort me. It was always me who apologized and tried to make up. I never thought the day would come when he'd be the one to back down. What are you thinking about? Hurry up and eat. It won't taste as good once it gets cold. Gunan tore off a large duck leg and placed it in my hand. A wave of warmth washed over my heart. He remembered that roast duck leg is my absolute favorite. The skin of the duck leg was golden and crispy, releasing a burst of savory aroma with the very first bite. It was absolutely delicious. My eyes lit up, and I began to eat with great gusto. Gunan just watched me quietly, a smile playing on his lips. I urged him, go on, eat. Why are you staring at me? I'm done eating. There's something I need to ask of you. I looked over at Gunan and heard him continue. Io, Baishan and Huan don't know a soul in this town, and it's awkward for me to be seen escorting them around. Why don't you just tell people they're distant relatives of yours, and I'm helping you look after them? That way, no one will gossip. In that instant, the duck leg in my mouth suddenly lost all its flavor. So that's how it is. No wonder he was suddenly being so attentive. It was all for his one true love. A bitter taste rose in my throat, and I set down the duck leg. With a neutral expression, she said, I don't have any distant relatives. You can say they're yours. Gunan's expectant expression froze. Su Yao, when did you become so petty and suspicious? Are you overthinking things again? No, I'm full. Do as you please. I wiped my hands and stood up, ready to leave. Su Yao, Gunan sprang to his feet, glaring at me intently. What on earth are you making a scene about? We're getting married in 2 months. Don't you trust me? I looked into his furious eyes and suddenly laughed. Gunan, if I brought a man home and said I wanted to let him stay in our marital home, would you agree? Gunan's face flushed with urgency, his mouth just opening to explain. From outside the door came Huan's frantic, tearful cry, Uncle Gunan, my mommy is gone. Gunan left. He left in a hurry, without so much as a glance in my direction. I should have known. Between me and his first love, he would always choose her. I shouldn't have gotten my hopes up. I sat back down. The roast duck was still warm and fragrant, at its absolute peak of deliciousness. It couldn't go to waste. I ate the duck, bite after bite. Salty tears dampened the crispy duck skin. It tasted a little sour, a little bitter. Let go, Su Yao, I said to myself. In my heart, this person isn't worth holding on to. Before I knew it, I can't believe I ate a whole roast duck by myself. The consequence is, my stomach is absolutely stuffed. I've decided to go out for a walk to help my digestion. As I was walking along, I found myself standing outside a state-run barbershop. An old man was dozing lazily in a deck chair by the entrance, basking in the sun. Noticing I had been standing there for a while, he cracked an eye open to look at me. Need a haircut, comrade? I shook my head. No, thank you, the old barber urged. Go on, get a haircut. Ever since the college entrance exams came back last year, society's opened up a lot. All the young folks come to me for the latest styles. It'd be a shame not to cut it. You're such a handsome lad. I touched the 2 braids hanging over my chest, feeling a flicker of temptation. What girl doesn't want to be a little prettier? Then let's cut it. In the end, I still walked into the hair salon. An hour later, I almost didn't recognize myself in the mirror. My 2 thick, long braids were gone, replaced in an instant by a head of fresh, short hair. It framed my oval face with a youthful vibrancy, making me look years younger. The elderly barber looked at me with a beaming smile. I told you. Young comrade, short hair suits you perfectly, you look absolutely dashing. Thank you, sir. I paid with a smile and walked out of the barber shop. Maybe it was because of the new haircut. The heavy weight in my heart suddenly lifted. The once gloomy street before me now seemed much brighter. I think it's time for me to make a change, not for anyone else, but for myself. I made a trip to the Supply and Marketing Cooperative. Gunan served in the military for many years. His stipend increased year after year, and each time he sent the bulk of it back home, to thank me for looking after her. Gu's mother would give me 3 yuan every month to put into savings. After 5 years of saving, and after covering all necessary expenses, I was left with 150 yuan and a few ration coupons. I used to scrimp and save, never daring to spend recklessly. When my clothes and shoes wore out, I'd just patch them up and keep wearing them, but in the end, I didn't spend a single penny. And yet I died, given a second chance. I'd decided not to be so frugal. I'm going to spend when I need to. I bought a lot of things at the Supply and Marketing Cooperative. My hair needs some adornment. I'll get a light blue gauze headscarf. My face is all red and chapped from the cold wind. I need a jar of vanishing cream. My long johns are worn thin from washing. I should buy 2 new sets to change into. These trousers have patches. Time to buy a new pair to replace them. There were also rubber shoes with the soles coming apart, and my big toes were so cold they'd cracked and split. Slipping on a brand new pair of cotton shoes, my feet were soon toasty warm. After buying something at each counter, I'd put it to use right away. In no time at all, I felt like a whole new person. I glanced down at my drab, gray cotton padded jacket. My eyes scanned the coat counter, finally landing on a sky blue overcoat. Comrade, could I have a look at that blue coat, please? Even the haughty sales clerk, who usually looked down her nose at everyone, couldn't help but compliment me when I tried it on. Comrade, that outfit looks wonderful on you. Many people have tried it on before, but it suits you the best. I smiled and said, thank you, I'll take this coat. How much is it? The shop assistant at the counter said, this one is quite expensive, you know, it was sourced from Shanghai. It costs 55 yuan and 1 fabric ration coupon. I nodded, that's fine. I'll take it. I still had over 120 bucks in my pocket. That was plenty. Just as I was about to pay, a voice full of surprise came from behind me. Su Yao. I turned my head and met a pair of eyes as dark and deep as ink. Yao, it's really you. Gunan stared at me intently, a flicker of admiration flashing in his eyes. You look really beautiful today. That outfit suits you perfectly. Thank you. I gave a faint nod, my gaze sweeping briefly over the 2 figures beside him. Bai Shan greeted me with a beaming smile. Then, right within my line of sight, she pinched her daughter Huan Huan hard. Huan Huan immediately cried out in pain. Gunan averted his gaze from me and looked at Huan Huan with a nervous expression. Huan Huan, what's wrong? Huan Huan bit her lip and glanced timidly at Bai Shan. Then she spoke up, Uncle Gunan, my mom likes this dress too. Could you buy one for her as well? Gunan didn't hesitate and nodded directly, of course. Bai Shan put on a show of declining a couple of times, but ultimately accepted. Unfortunately, this style of coat was the last one left, and I bought it. I've already completed the payment. I wanted to leave, but Gunan wouldn't let me. Su Yao, how about you let Bai Shan have this dress? I'll pay you double. Alright. No, I refused without hesitation. I can let go of a man whose heart has changed, but what is rightfully mine? I will never give up. Gunan's brow furrowed. Su Yao. You know perfectly well how difficult it is for Bai Shan to raise a child alone, yet you insist on opposing her. There's something wrong with your attitude. I really didn't want to respond, but I just can't take it anymore. Gunan, how ridiculous of you to say these things. Is her losing her husband my fault? Is it my fault that she's taken over our marital home with her child? Is it my fault that she wants me to hand over my clothes just because she likes them? A rapid-fire triple question that left everyone speechless. The counter clerk, who had been munching on sunflower seeds while watching the drama, spat out a shell with a pft. No wonder I smelled something fishy. She's a widow now, yet she still dares to flirt with someone else's partner. How shameless. Bai Shan's face went pale, and her body began to sway unsteadily. Sister-in-law, I had no idea you thought of me that way. I can't go on living. With that, she covered her face, sobbing, and ran out. Mom. Huan Huan burst into tears of panic. Gunan's face darkened as he roared at me. Su Yao, you're being completely unreasonable. If anything happens to Bai Shan, you'll pay for it. After uttering a fierce threat, he scooped up Huan Huan and immediately gave chase. The sales clerk behind the counter was left utterly dumbstruck. Comrade, is that person really your sweetheart? Having worked at the supply and marketing cooperative for years, there wasn't a type of woman she hadn't seen. That Baishan woman looked so fake from the get-go. To throw away your fiancé for a piece of trash like that, what a complete idiot. The woman behind the counter was visibly outraged. I let out a bitter laugh and replied to her, it was, but not anymore. The woman at the counter understood what I meant. Don't worry about it, dump him, and I'll set you up with someone better. Thanks, sis, I smiled from the heart. You see, even a stranger can show me kindness, yet the one I loved most hurt me the deepest. Back home, Gunan was here too. You're back. His voice carried a hint of apology. I ignored him, brushed past him, and went straight into the bridal chamber. After putting away all the purchases, I lay down on the bed for a while to rest. When I went out again, Gunan was still standing in the same spot. Su Yao, we need to talk. Talk about what? Has Baishan been found? Don't come blaming me again if she runs off later. Gunan's face instantly darkened. Su Yao, do you have to be so harsh every time you speak? I've told you there's nothing between me and Baishan. Why won't you believe me? I'm so tired. I don't want to argue about this with him anymore, you know. People only get that defensive and angry when you've hit a raw nerve. Gunan, you know the truth in your heart. Gunan practically fled in a panic. I returned to my room in silence, my gaze involuntarily drifting to the wall. 9 days left. In 9 days, I'll be able to leave this place of sorrow for good. Gunan, I suppose you'd be pleased. Somehow, the news of the Cold War between Gunan and me reached his mother's ears. Early the next morning, a frail little old lady appeared at the front door. Huffing and puffing as she carried a large bundle. Mom, what are you doing here? My face lit up with surprise, and I quickly took the burlap sack from her hands, inviting her inside. The old woman didn't move, but stared intently at my face. Yawa, you've gotten so thin. With just those words, my tears began to fall. The old woman's expression changed instantly, and she turned to leave. Did that rascal Gunan give you a hard time? I'll go give him a piece of my mind. I quickly stopped her. Mom, it's nothing, just listen to me. I told a little white lie to the old lady. I said that ever since Gunan got back, he's been completely tied up with his job transfer and hasn't had any time for me, which is why we had a falling out. I'm aware of the situation with Baishan and her daughter. Gunan was just being helpful. The old lady was still a bit suspicious, but I managed to brush it off with some vague answers. Mom, I'm hungry. As soon as she heard that, the old lady hurried into the kitchen to get busy. I followed her inside. I brought a lot of vegetables from our own garden. There's your favorite lettuce and Napa cabbage. I also brought some glass noodles so I can make you a stewed cabbage with noodles. And don't you go skimping on eggs. I bought 50 free-range eggs from Auntie Ma next door and brought them all for you. Remember to eat one a day. The little old lady chattered away as she pulled things out of the burlap sack. Tears instantly blurred my vision. Mom, I'll let you get back to it. I need to use the restroom. Choking back a sob, I fled the kitchen as if escaping. I hid in the bridal suite, covered my mouth, and wept bitterly. By the time the dear old lady knocked on my door, I had already composed myself. My eyes were still a bit red and puffy, and she noticed, but she didn't say a word, just kept putting my favorite dishes into my bowl. We ate the rest of our lunch in a warm, comfortable silence. After the meal, the dear old lady was getting ready to leave. Before she left, she took my hand in hers, her face full of concern, and said, Yawazi, if that rascal ever treats you poorly, you come on home, our door is always open for you. I nodded, feeling my eyes well up with tears once more. I'm sorry, little old lady, I broke my promise. I won't be coming back home. 8 days left. In 8 days, I'll have my university acceptance letter in hand. Then I can go to the educated youth office to get my papers and leave this place for good. The countdown to departure. Day 7. I didn't do a thing all day, just holed up in the new place and slept. But no matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't fall asleep. My mind was a mess, and my head was splitting with pain. After turning it over and over in my mind, I decided to go back to the countryside and have it out with the old lady. After all, we had lived together for 5 years and our relationship had always been very good. I just couldn't bring myself to leave without saying goodbye. Early the next morning, I went back to the countryside. The dear old lady was overjoyed to see me return. Auntie, he gave me a few Kirschenkarp last night. Since you're back, I'll make you a pot of Kirschenkarp and radish soup. It's incredibly fresh and delicious. Besides the Kirschenkarp and radish soup, the dear old lady also made scallion pancakes and spicy kimchi, all of which are my favorites. By the end of the meal, I was completely stuffed. After dinner, I insisted on doing the dishes and then tidied up both the house and the yard. Finally, I spoke up, "Mom, let's go for a little walk." The countryside in the afternoon was utterly tranquil. Arm in arm with the little old lady, I walked quietly along the country path, my heart equally serene. When we were halfway, the little old lady suddenly asked me, "Yawa, is there something you want to tell me?" I stopped in my tracks and finally told her the truth. "Mom, I'm sorry, I might not be able to become your daughter-in-law." In front of the old lady, I didn't say a single bad word about Gunan. I just told her that Gunan and I aren't compatible, and I don't want to marry him anymore. The old lady didn't believe me and immediately pressed me for details about what had happened. I explained that I'm not in Gunan's heart. He actually has feelings for someone else, so I'm stepping aside to let them be together. Hearing this, the old lady was so furious she stamped her feet repeatedly, saying she was going to confront Gunan and demand an explanation. I flat out refused. Once someone's heart has changed, no amount of persuasion can bring them back. I also didn't want to see the old lady and Gunan have a nasty falling out. After all, they're mother and son. I can't be the outsider who drives a wedge between them. That night, I snuggled up under the covers with the old lady and shared a lot of heartfelt secrets. The old lady sighed the whole time. "Ah, that foolish boy doesn't know how lucky he is. He has no idea what a treasure you are. I'm going to give him a piece of my mind." "Yawa, don't be sad. That boy wasn't fortunate enough to marry you. Why don't you just become my daughter from now on? We'll get along just fine, just the two of us." I didn't respond, pretending to be asleep. 6 more days. The old dear would probably be so sad if she knew I was leaving. Last night, I actually managed to fall asleep, and slept soundly for once. After breakfast, I said goodbye to the old lady and headed back to town. When I opened the front door, I was completely taken aback. I had only been gone for a day, but the house was completely transformed. The main room was a mess, with children's toys and shoes scattered all over the floor. A sense of foreboding washed over me, and I quickened my pace toward the bridal chamber. The moment I pushed the door open, my breath caught in my throat. The red brocade quilt I had so carefully prepared was tossed haphazardly on the floor, marred by several muddy footprints. An enamel basin and a thermos lay overturned to the side, water spilled all over the floor. The red paper cuts on the windows had been torn to shreds. The new clothes I'd just bought from the supply and marketing cooperative a couple of days ago had several holes stabbed into them with scissors, especially that sky blue coat. I had carefully folded it and placed it by the head of the bed, intending to wear it on the day I left. It had been maliciously splattered with red ink. The once beautiful, stylish coat was utterly ruined, just like my heart, which was similarly shattered. With trembling hands, I picked up that garment. "It's ruined. Everything is ruined." Footsteps sounded outside the door. "Ayow, is that you?" Gunan looked at me with a face full of pleasant surprise. The moment his gaze met my ashen expression, his smile faltered. "Ayow, Gunan," I cut him off, enunciating each word with deliberate clarity. "Let's call off the engagement." Gunan's face instantly darkened. "Ayow, do you have any idea what you're saying?" I stared at him coldly. "Do I need to repeat myself?" Gunan said through gritted teeth. "I refuse. I will not agree to call off our engagement." "Sis, is this because of me and Juan Juan? Maybe we should just leave. Please don't be upset with Brother Gu. We wouldn't want outsiders to see and make a scene." Bai Shan's words said one thing, but her eyes couldn't hide her gleeful satisfaction. Her words were truly a masterclass in psychological warfare. A simple phrase like being upset shifted all the blame onto me, making me seem petty and unreasonable, just as expected. Gunan was still feeling a bit upset. Hearing this, his expression grew complicated. "Su Yao, you're being too willful. You can't threaten me by calling off the engagement. That's not right." "I'm not." "What?" I said. "I'm not threatening you. I genuinely don't want to marry you anymore." I watched as Gunan's face gradually drained of color. His lips trembled as he stared at me, dumbstruck, on the verge of saying something. Suddenly, a sharp, crisp slap rang out. It was followed by the furious, exasperated voice of Bai Shan. "It's all your fault, you wretched girl. If you hadn't been messing with Aunt Suya's things, she wouldn't have argued with your Uncle Gunan. Now apologize to her." Huan Huan covered her face and wailed, sobbing out an apology to me between cries. I didn't look at her. Turning my body away, Bai Shan slapped Huan Huan on the head again, ordering her to kneel and apologize to me. Gunan had seen enough. "Enough. Su Yao, how much longer are you going to keep this up? Do you have to turn this house upside down? Apologize to Shanhuan right now." A sharp, stabbing pain instantly spread through my chest. "So this is what it feels like to be utterly disappointed. I'm the one who was wronged. So why does it feel like I'm the one in the wrong? That's not fair." Why does Baishan get to take everything from me the moment she arrives? I won't apologize, I did nothing wrong, I yelled, my eyes blazing a frightening red. Gunan was startled by the look on my face. I had never lost my composure like this in front of him before, and it left him feeling quite flustered. Su Yao, calm down, let's talk this through properly. Seeing the situation take a turn for the worse, Baishan quickly pulled her daughter Huan down to kneel. Sister-in-law, I'm here to apologize, it's all our fault, please don't blame brother Gu, I beg you to forgive him. Gunan's expression changed instantly. Baishan, what are you doing? Get up, please, don't kneel, no. Baishan shook her head, tears streaming down her face like rain on pear blossoms. If sister-in-law doesn't forgive you, we won't get up. Seeing her put on this phony act makes me sick to my stomach. Then you can just stay on your knees for the rest of your lives. Su Yao, Gunan's voice suddenly rose, his face a mask of disappointment as he looked at me. How could you become like this? I'm so disappointed in you. I didn't want to waste any more words on him, so I turned to leave. Just as Gunan reached out an arm to stop me, Huan let out a sudden scream. Mom, what's wrong? Baishan had fainted. Su Yao, are you happy now? Look what you've done. Gunan shot me a glare through gritted teeth, swiftly picked up Baishan, and hurried away with Huan, lying in his arms. Baishan secretly opened her eyes and flashed me a triumphant smile. At that moment, I felt utterly powerless. A surge of vengeful impulse towards her welled up in my heart, but I held myself back. I don't want any more entanglements with them, and I can't ruin Gunan. For the sake of the old lady, I couldn't ruin him. Out of sight, out of mind. That very night, I moved out and checked into a guest house. There were still 5 days left. In 5 days, I'll be free. Gunan stayed at the hospital with Baishan for 2 days. Even though she was perfectly fine, he still took meticulous care of her. Even the nursing staff couldn't help but praise him. Comrade, you're so good to your wife. If I had a husband as caring as you, I'd probably wake up laughing in my sleep. Gunan was stunned. He really wanted to say that Baishan wasn't his wife, but he couldn't bring himself to say it. So, in other people's eyes, he and Baishan were actually that close. No wonder Su Yao misunderstood him. I wonder how she's been at home these past couple of days. I hope she hasn't been crying. Maybe he should go back tonight. The moment the thought crossed his mind, a weak voice came from beside him. Brother Gu, my chest hurts so much. Gunan's heart skipped a beat, and he immediately stood up. I'll go get a doctor. No need. Baishan grabbed his arm, pulling him back to sit. Just stay and talk with me for a while. With that, she continued, sigh. I wonder how sister-in-law is doing. She's probably still mad at you. Maybe once I'm better, Huan and I should just leave. I don't want to cause any more trouble between you. Gunan's brow furrowed deeply. Baishan shot Huan a meaningful look, and the child immediately burst into loud sobs. Wah, Mom, I don't want to leave. We have nowhere to go. Uncle Gu, please don't make us leave. Huan's pitiful tears made Gunan's heart ache terribly. Don't cry, Huan, I won't make you leave, I promise. Baishan bit her lip. But what about your wife? She's bound to mind. Gunan sneered. If she has a problem with it, she can get out. No sooner had the words left his mouth, a frail figure burst into the room, brandishing a rolling pin. They proceeded to rain down blows upon Gunan. You little rascal. You're going to be the death of me. You turn down a perfectly good girl like Yawa, and go chasing after that seductive widow. No wonder Yawa cried her eyes out. You're coming home with me right now to apologize to her, or I swear I'll never forgive you. Mom, please stop hitting me. Gunan was beaten so badly he could only scurry away, covering his head. In the end, he had no choice but to wrest the rolling pin away from her. The little old lady, furious, gave him a few more hard slaps on the back with her hand. Give me back that rolling pin. I'm not done with you yet. Baishan got down from the sickbed and walked over, looking pale and weak, to try and calm things down. Auntie, please calm down. The little old woman shoved her hard. You damn vixen, get the hell away from me. Huan immediately rushed over. Don't you dare bully my mother. The old woman shot her a glare. The child of a vixen is no good either. Gunan had finally had enough. Mom, that's enough, please, just stop. The little old lady stared at him in utter disbelief. Gunan, you're yelling at me for that homewrecker. Are you even my son anymore? Gunan, Mom, Baishan saved my life. You can't talk about her like that. The old woman glared at him. That girl Yao saved your life too. How could you break her heart like this? What? Gunan was stunned. When did she ever save me? The old woman said. It was during the Dragon Boat Festival last year. She sneaked out to see you and came back covered in injuries. That very night, she came down with a high fever. If she hadn't mumbled it in her delirium, I would never have known she nearly lost her life for your sake. Yeah, was afraid I'd worry, so she never told me about this. I thought you already knew, so I didn't bring it up with you. Gunan's face instantly darkened. He turned his head mechanically, his gaze dark and heavy as it fell upon Baishan. Baishan. Didn't you say it was you who saved me? The countdown to departure. Day 3, Gunan appeared at the entrance of the guest house. He stopped me with a look of earnest entreaty. Yao, give me a moment, we need to talk. I gave him a cold, indifferent glance. These past couple of days at the guest house, I've been doing a lot of thinking and reminiscing. Maybe I wasn't really in love with Gunan after all. It was only because I grew up as an orphan, starved for love, that I desperately sought it from him, hoping for his response. Now, I have come to a sudden and profound realization. If you want others to love you, you must first learn to love yourself. From now on, I will focus on myself and work hard to become a better person. I've realized something. I don't love Gunan anymore. Even if he were standing right in front of me, my heart wouldn't stir in the slightest. In that case, I have nothing left to say to him. I turned to leave, but Gunan grabbed my arm and wouldn't let go. Yao, didn't you come looking for me at the army base last Dragon Boat Festival? I said nothing. I did go to find Gunan last year, but I ended up getting lost on the way. I wandered into a mountain forest in a daze and unexpectedly came across Gunan, who was severely wounded on a mission. He was covered in wounds, bleeding profusely and unconscious. It started to rain again, and worried he'd get soaked. I struggled to drag him to a cave for shelter. That night, the rain poured down relentlessly. Gunan was running a high fever. I was worried sick. I tore my coat into strips to bind his wounds and stop the bleeding, while using the remaining strips to collect rainwater to cool his forehead. After a whole night of my frantic efforts, his fever finally broke. Just as I was feeling relieved, a commotion erupted outside. The same brutal bandits who had hurt Gunan had found us. Fearing Gunan would be hurt again, I put on his jacket and rushed out, hoping to draw their attention away. After fleeing through the mountains for 2 days and a night, I was rescued by a kind-hearted hunter. He helped me board a train, and that was how I finally made it back to the countryside. I didn't say anything at the time because I was afraid of worrying Granny and Gunan. I never expected Gunan to find out anyway. Io, tell me the truth, was it you who saved me back then? Gunan stared at me intently, his eyes desperately searching my face for the answer. Me, does it matter? Gunan was stunned. Yao. I looked into his eyes. Gunan, whether I saved you or not, it doesn't matter anymore. Do you understand? In my past life, I didn't find out until much later. It turns out Gunan had mistaken who his savior was. That's partly why he was so good to Baishan. I tried to explain it to him, but he simply wouldn't believe me. I suggested we ask his mom to back me up, but he said she'd take my side and would definitely help me. I was left speechless, my heart numb with pain. After coming back to life, I had plenty of chances to tell him, but I never did. I didn't want to complicate things. None of it matters anymore. Anyway, seeing my indifferent attitude, Gunan panicked. Yao, let me explain. Explain what? Don't tell me you never liked Baishan, that you never had any feelings for her. Gunan, yes, I admit it. I did have feelings for her once, but that was a long time ago. If she hadn't lied to me, claiming she was the one who saved me back then, I would never have gotten back in touch with her. This time, when her husband passed away, it was only because I remembered her supposed act of saving me that I softened and brought her back here. Don't overthink it, okay? I couldn't help but laugh. Gunan, even now, you're still lying to me. Gunan's face went pale. You clearly can't let go of your feelings for her, yet you're unwilling to give me up, so you're just stringing us both along. Did you actually fantasize that Baishan and I could peacefully coexist and live together happily? What a devoted lover. He's nothing but a selfish person. I've finally seen Gunan for who he truly is, yet Gunan himself dares not admit it. Io, please don't say that. I only love you. You have to believe me. I pulled my arm back, looking at him with utter contempt. Gunan, you make me sick. We're done. Countdown to departure. 2 more days. Baishan appeared with a haughty, triumphant look on her face. She was wearing a brand new blue coat and bragged, "Do you like it? Brother Gu bought it for me. He even said if I marry him, he'll buy me a few more." I looked at her face and offered a sincere suggestion. Miss, maybe you should go back and slap a few more coats of whitewash on your face before heading out. The dark circles under your eyes are way too obvious. Baishan was so furious she started shrieking. What are you so smug about? You're just a pathetic nobody that nobody wants. Just you wait and see. We'll see about that. I'm about to embark on a new chapter of my life and see the wider world. How long can a love built on scheming and calculation possibly last? I'll be watching with great interest. The final day. Worried something might go wrong. I went straight to the post office to pick up my university acceptance letter. Then I went to the educated youth office to complete all the formalities and get my departure papers. My final stop was the train station, where I bought a ticket for the noon train to Jing City tomorrow. I looked at the ticket in my hand, a smile spread across my face, the happiest one I'd had in a long while. Finally, I could finally leave this place. Clackety-clack, clackety-clack, the old green train began to move. I didn't tell a soul I was leaving, not even the old lady, but I left a large parcel for her, which I asked the postman to deliver. It was packed to the brim with all the things I'd bought for her at the supply and marketing cooperative. The frugal old lady had saved all her life, never willing to use anything up. Those supplies would last her a long, long time. I gazed out the window at the small town fading into the distance. A deep sense of melancholy settled in my heart. Farewell. My 5 years of youth. Goodbye, my dear old lady. 3 days later, I arrived in Beijing without a hitch. Even after 3 days and nights on a hard-seat train, I was still full of energy. I gazed at the brand-new surroundings. I took a deep breath and broke into a radiant smile. Su Yao, your world is here. I was extremely busy for the next while. I was busy with enrollment, busy with classes, busy working at the cafeteria, and busy building my network. Every day was exhaustingly busy, yet incredibly fulfilling and happy. It was a joy that transcended my own self. I was smiling every single day. I never would have imagined that one day I could be this happy. Honestly, it's pure bliss. The day I first arrived in the capital, I called up the old lady and told her my news. Far from being upset, she laughed heartily over the phone. Yao, my dear, you've made your mother so proud. We finally have a college graduate in the family. Hearing her say that, a huge wave of relief washed over me. The lingering guilt in my heart had mostly faded away. From then on, I would call the post office back home once a month. From the old lady, I learned about Gunan and Baishan's recent situation. They ended up getting married after all. Gunan had originally intended to send Baishan and Huan away, but Baishan went around telling everyone she was Gunan's fiancée, and she would often show up at his workplace to bring him meals. After that, no amount of explaining could clear Gunan's name. For the sake of his own future and to protect Baishan's reputation, he married her. But Gunan never could have imagined, the woman he had longed for and finally married, his cherished white moonlight, was actually a compulsive gambler. Yes, Baishan was a gambling addict. Her previous husband had died in an accident while desperately taking on dangerous missions to earn money to cover her gambling debts. That's precisely why both her in-laws and her own family wanted nothing to do with her. But Gunan was completely in the dark. He was utterly captivated by her charms, and by the time he realized the truth, it was too late. To his shock, Baishan had secretly borrowed money from several of his colleagues and even the next-door neighbors, all in his name. Gunan had to spend nearly all the savings he'd earned during his years in the military just to pay off all the debts. He had originally intended to divorce Baishan, but Baishan knelt on the ground, slapping her own face hard, and swore she would never gamble again. Their daughter, Huan, also knelt on the floor, crying and kowtowing. In the end, Gunan's heart softened. Afterwards, the family of 3 enjoyed a period of peaceful and warm life together. Unfortunately, this peace was short-lived, as Baishan became pregnant. Upon learning this news, Huan, who had always been well-behaved in front of others, suddenly erupted. She had always been belittled by her mother, Baishan, who showed her little maternal affection. It was Gunan's arrival that saved her. But now, Gunan and Baishan are expecting a child of their own. Her standing will surely revert to what it was before, or become even worse. This was something she absolutely could not tolerate. So, one morning, Huan deliberately spilled a bowl of beans at Baishan's feet. The outcome was just as she had hoped. Baishan slipped, had a miscarriage, and was left unable to bear children. It was only after Gunan conducted a thorough investigation that this matter came to light. No one could believe that Huan, with her soft and adorable appearance, could harbor such a wicked side. When it comes down to it, it's Baishan's fault. If she had raised Huan properly, Huan would never have turned out this way. Because of this incident, Gunan's lingering feelings for Baishan completely vanished. He was thinking about divorce again, but Baishan clung to him like glue, refusing to budge an inch. Later, a kidnapper seeking revenge on Gunan abducted Baishan and Huan, forcing Gunan to choose between them. Ironically, this time, Gunan chose neither. If the police hadn't arrived so quickly, Bai Shan and Huan Huan might have lost their lives on the spot. After this incident, Gunan and Bai Shan had a complete falling out. Their fights were ugly in public, they argued almost daily. And the neighbors couldn't help but shake their heads whenever the topic came up. The old lady recounted these events with deep sighing and regret. Yao, if only Gunan had married you back then. Every time he comes back to the countryside, he's so quiet and withdrawn. It breaks my heart to see him like that. I didn't tell her that if I had chosen Gunan, it might have been the death of me. I just smiled and said, that's all in the past. There's nothing more to say about it, actually. Gunan did call me once. He said he regretted it. The very next day, Bai Shan called and launched into a hysterical tirade. From then on, I would hang up the moment I realized it was Gunan on the line. He seemed to get the message and never called me again. 2 months later, I received an anonymous letter. Inside was a silver watch and a letter. The silver watch looked familiar. I remembered seeing it once before, when Gunan and I visited the department store in the provincial capital. I had really liked that watch back then, but it was over 100 yuan, far too expensive. I couldn't bring myself to ask Gunan to buy it for me. He went ahead and bought it after all, but it was too late. The letter's contents were simple, just 3 words, I'm sorry. They filled the entire page. Crammed in from edge to edge, the tear stains scattered across the page speak volumes about the writer's sorrow. But what does any of that have to do with me? I sent the watch straight back, returned to sender. As for the letter itself, I burned it to ashes. Not a single trace remains. Affection that comes too late is worth less than dirt. I don't want it anymore. My university major was medical research. Even before I graduated, I followed my supervisor into the lab, conducting experiments day and night. It finally happened in the year I graduated. An experiment I was part of was a resounding success. My name was on everyone's lips. My name and photo were even in newspapers across the country. The school awarded me a substantial sum of money. I made a special trip to bring Granny to the capital, planning to show her around. During this visit, Granny shared some news with me. Unable to endure Bai Shan's torment any longer, Gunan applied for military service on the frontier. Bai Shan was unwilling to endure that kind of hardship. She was secretly seeing someone else, and Gunan found out. This time, he finally had a legitimate reason to divorce Bai Shan. For corrupting public morals, Bai Shan was sent to the county pig farm for labor reform. As for Huan Huan, Gunan sent her back to Bai Shan's parents' home to be raised by her maternal family. The old lady sighed. Oh, that wretched boy has really made a mess of things. He's ruined a perfectly good life. Serves him right. This time, the old lady didn't say anything like, if only I had married Gunan, because she knew I had surpassed Gunan by so much that he couldn't even hope to catch up. The old lady was in good spirits. After lamenting a bit on the first day, she was full of life and energy again afterwards. I took her to Tiananmen Square to watch the flag-raising ceremony. And we also climbed the Great Wall and had some Peking duck. The sweet old lady was all smiles every day. To everyone she met, she'd say I was her daughter, a researcher, and praise me for being sensible and filial. Passers-by on the street all gave her a thumbs up, which made the old lady beam even brighter. On the day I was leaving, she held my hand tightly and said, Yao, dear, you must take good care of yourself out there. Look after your health. Your best days are still ahead of you. I will, Auntie Gu. As I watched her board the train, I lifted my gaze to the sky. The sky stretched clear for miles, bathed in the glow of 1,000 brilliant suns. Since fate has given me a second chance, this time, I will seize the opportunity and forge my own destiny. Story 2, Reborn and Back. In this life, I won't accommodate K. Jiang anymore. K. Jiang let Blair Yu move in, saying it was temporary. I didn't believe it and moved out immediately. In my previous life, K. Jiang had me help him take care of his parents for 17 years, until they passed away. When I returned to my own home, my own son actually shut me out. Inside the door, K. Jiang and Blair Yu were being intimate. My biological son acted like a simp, calling Blair Yu mom. In my previous life, I gave up my studies to take care of K. Jiang's parents and children, becoming a devoted wife and mother. In this life, I will never live for others again. Looking at the admission letter from Southwest University in my hand, I almost laughed out loud with joy. No one knows, I have been reborn. My best friend was quite surprised when she found out I had applied to Southwest University. Your fiancé is working in the city, so why would you choose Southwest University? It's so far away for your studies. Don't let him slip away, she said. I smiled and replied, if he runs off with another woman, he'll regret it for the rest of his life. My friend looked at me, puzzled. I have a childhood betrothal with K. Jiang. Our parents arranged it when we were kids. which was quite common in the village. We grew up together, and as we got older, I noticed he became more handsome and ambitious. I'm afraid some other beautiful woman might steal him away, so I obeyed his every wish and never refused any of his requests. Even my first time, I gave it to him without hesitation, though with shyness and fluster. At the time, I thought that as long as I didn't let him down, he wouldn't let me down either. Later, both he and I went to the city for school. He was a few years older than me. After graduating from university, he worked as a senior technician at a company in the city. Everyone thought I was marrying above my station. At that time, I had just graduated from high school and had received an admission letter from Southwest University. He said he wanted to get married, and my heart was overjoyed. I didn't hesitate and decisively gave up the opportunity to attend university, resolutely registering our marriage with him. The following year, we had a son named Jiang Hanyang. People said this son didn't resemble me at all but looked like K. Jiang. As the child grows up, he'll naturally bond more with whoever he resembles. At the time, I didn't care much about these things. My parents passed away early, and I never had the chance to take care of them in their old age, which fills me with deep guilt. K. Jiang's parents were bedridden with paralysis, with no one to care for them, and he begged me to return to the countryside to look after his parents. Without a second thought, I agreed immediately. To avoid affecting his work, I even brought along Jiang Hanyang, who was just over 2 years old. After that, the two of us were separated by distance. I'm here taking care of the elderly and raising the child, so he has no worries on his end and has developed quickly, becoming the department manager. He bought a house in the city, but I'm confined to this small world, tending to the elderly and the child, with no chance to go see it. I watched my son Jiang Hanyang grow from babbling as a baby to slowly maturing. When he reached school age, K. Jiang took him to the city. Living with K. Jiang has distanced the bond between my son and me. Every once in a while, K. Jiang brings Jiang Hanyang back to visit his parents, and I get to see my son. They say absence makes the heart grow fonder, but I don't feel that kind of passion from K. Jiang. He seemed rather indifferent about that matter. I didn't think much about it at the time. The next day, they left in a hurry. Watching their retreating figures, I felt an indescribable sense of loss. I will continue to take meticulous care of his parents at home, until one day, the elderly couple passed away. When I eagerly returned to my own home in the city and opened the door, standing before me was a strange girl around 21 or 22 years old. I looked at her in astonishment. "Who are you looking for?" the girl asked me. I was about to ask her who she was and why she was in my house. At that moment, Jiang Hanyang stepped forward from behind. "What are you doing here?" Jiang Hanyang's tone carried a hint of displeasure when he saw me. "This is my home. Why can't I come back?" I frowned at this son I had been missing day and night. I looked inside, and besides K. Jiang, there was also a woman, Blair Yu. I knew her. The woman was called Blair Yu, a classmate of K. Jiang's. The two of them had once had a relationship behind my back. Blair Yu married a man and had a daughter with him. After Blair Yu got divorced, she took her daughter Feng Xiuxiu and ran here. After I married K. Jiang, he told me he would no longer have any contact with her. It turned out to be a scam. He tricked me into serving his parents while he was at home rekindling old flames with his lover. "Why are you here?" K. Jiang walked up to me, his tone carrying a hint of annoyance, as if I had interrupted their happy life. From the looks in their eyes, it seemed as though I was the homewrecker, intruding on their family, a family that was theirs, not mine. My heart felt as if something had suddenly blocked it, making it hard to breathe. "Hanyang, how can you speak to your mother like that? Come in and sit down." Blair Yu seemed like the host of the house welcoming a guest. "What happened? Have I become an outsider in this family?" I stared at K. Jiang in disbelief. This ungrateful scoundrel. His father suffered a cerebral infarction and is bedridden with paralysis, while his mother is in poor health and unable to care for him. K. Jiang begged me to take care of his parents, so I had no choice but to return to the countryside to help tend to his bedridden father. Later, his mother also became paralyzed. I cared for the elderly couple day and night, while he was out there indulging in romantic affairs with other women, and this assistance of mine lasted for 17 years, until his parents passed away peacefully. But when I returned home, I never expected that K. Jiang and Blair Yu would actually get married, leaving me as the outsider. And then there's this ungrateful bastard of a son. When he was 3 years old and had a high fever, I braved a raging snowstorm, carried him in my arms, trudged through deep snow for 20 miles to get him to the county hospital. That's how his life was saved. Like father, like son indeed, a pair of scumbags. "What's going on here?" I asked K. Jiang with a frown. "Nova, don't misunderstand. Blair Yu and her daughter haven't found a suitable place yet, so they're staying here temporarily. Kei Jiang explained to me. What a load of nonsense. It was after hearing these words from him that I came to believe him. Moreover, Han Yang and Xiao Xiao are already engaged now. Kei Jiang continued. What? The two got engaged without even telling me. Do they consider me an outsider? Mom, sit down quickly. Jiang Hanyang ran to Blair Yu's side, putting on an overly affectionate and fawning demeanor. Just after getting engaged, Jiang Hanyang actually started calling Blair Yu Mom, yet towards me. His biological mother, he's as cold as ice. Why is it that after I gave birth to him and raised him, he would treat his own mother like this in the end? Did I do something wrong? I saw Kei Jiang and Jiang Hanyang looking at me with cold and unfamiliar eyes, as if I were an outsider disturbing their happy life. Angrily, I turned and left. Neither Kei Jiang nor Jiang Hanyang came out to see me off. While sitting in the car, I gave up everything for this family, only to end up becoming the extra person in the household. My heart ached, and I was overwhelmed with sorrow. Suddenly, I felt a tightness in my chest, my head spun, and I died of a sudden heart attack in the car. Fortunately, I was reborn, back to before I married Kei Jiang. Since I've been reborn, I must change the unjust fate of my previous life. I hid the admission letter from Southwest University. At that time, Kei Jiang and I lived in a small apartment that was his workplace's dormitory. I saw Kei Jiang holding Blair Yu's hand as they walked in, followed by another girl. A surge of anger rose in my heart. Kei Jiang was surprised to see me at home and quickly let go of Blair Yu's hand. Nova, why are you home? Kei Jiang asked in surprise. Nothing much happened at school today, so I came back early to cook for you, I said coldly, staring at Blair Yu. Blair Yu has fair skin, with a clean and delicate face, and a graceful figure, even though she's had a child. Her charm as a young woman makes men unable to resist. Sister-in-law, I'm really sorry to bother you again, Blair Yu said to me with an apologetic look on her face. Her daughter Xiao was already used to it. Seeing that I had already prepared the meal, she couldn't hold back a cheer and ran over eagerly. She quickly went to scoop rice from the pot. First, she served her a bowl, then served Blair Yu and Kei Jiang each a bowl. Only I was left out. When I came out of the kitchen, I saw the three of them sitting around the dining table like a happy family, chatting and laughing together. The three of them ate with relish, and Xiao praised my cooking repeatedly. Auntie's cooking is still the best. I want another bowl, said Feng Xiao, Blair Yu's daughter. After the meal, the three gathered in the living room chatting and laughing, with no one clearing the dishes. By the time I finished cleaning up, the three had returned to Kei Jiang's bedroom. Though I didn't know what they were doing, left alone in the living room, I felt a bit like an outsider, or perhaps the one who didn't belong here. No, not an extra person, but their free nanny. Kei Jiang seemed to notice my unhappiness and quickly explained. Nova, Blair Yu just got divorced and has nowhere to stay with the child, so they're temporarily living at my place for a while. Live with us. Where are we staying? I asked Kei Jiang with confusion. The place we're staying has only 2 rooms, with Kei Jiang and I living separately, each in our own room. Oh, I can stay in the living room, and Blair and the child can stay in my room, Kei Jiang quickly said. I sighed inwardly. The play had begun before I was ready. As you wish, I said sullenly. The next day, after Kei Jiang left the house, I packed my belongings, preparing to return to the village tomorrow to dissolve the engagement. Kei Jiang and I had been betrothed since childhood. To annul the engagement, I needed to return to the countryside, find both sets of parents, inform them of the matter, and after mutual discussion, return the betrothal gifts before the engagement could be formally dissolved. The procedures are simple, without too much hassle, and Kei Jiang doesn't seem to care much about our engagement either. Once, we talked about marriage, and he said there was no rush, that we could wait until after I graduated. But one day, Kei Jiang said to me, "Let's get married." I glanced at him. Could he still be deluding himself into thinking he could trap me in the prison of family, making me serve them unpaid for a lifetime? That was exactly the scheme he had plotted in our past life. He handed all the household responsibilities to me, knowing full well I was the type to endure hardship without complaint. Meanwhile, he established another family outside. My family with him is a marriage in name only, while he and Blair Yu have a real relationship without the name. The thought of their family of 4 living together in a past life, while I was left out, makes my heart ache. I grit my teeth, convinced that my decision is right. I must not go back to the old ways. Since the heavens have given me a chance to be reborn, it means I should live a different life this time. Nova, are you feeling unwell somewhere? Kei Jiang asked me with concern. It's just my period. I'm fine, I lied. as long as it's nothing serious, that's good. These are the dishes Blair Yu likes, you can just make these tonight. Kye-jeong unfolded a piece of paper before my eyes as he spoke. I took it, tears welling up in my eyes. Damn it, I'm on my period, feeling so awful, and instead of caring for me, he actually wants me to go buy that bitch's favorite snacks for her. What the hell was he thinking? Has his brain short-circuited or something? I threw the paper on the ground and said angrily, I don't have time. If you want to do it yourself. After all, she's your person. When Kye-jeong saw me like this, he was instantly stunned. I, who have always been very docile, suddenly became like this today. Nova, don't talk nonsense. How could she be my person? Since you don't like her, I'll have her leave this place. You should be more generous and show compassion to the weak. You need to show more care for Blair Yu and her daughter, Kye-jeong said to me before leaving. I watched Kye-jeong's retreating figure and gave a cold smile. Had I not experienced my past life, perhaps I would have believed his words. It was only through the experiences of my past life that I realized my own generosity and care for others had pushed me to the brink. In my past life, I spent years caring for the elderly and my son. But when the elderly passed away and my son grew up and moved to the city, I discovered, just when I needed care myself, that it had all been a deception. Or perhaps it was I who had walked step by step into the abyss. I made others gradually think that I am useless and a burden, yet they showed no gratitude at all, and even ended up feeling like they had become a burden to others. Since I knew the son I was going to have would be a scumbag just like his father, I decided not to let him be born. I became even more resolute in my decision. Kye-jeong came back very late. I was sitting on the sofa. You've eaten, right? He said to me, intentionally or not. I didn't respond to him. I've already eaten at work. Seeing that I didn't respond, he felt awkward and tried to explain himself. As he walked past me, I caught the scent of rose perfume on him, the same fragrance I'd noticed on Blair Yu before. This convinced me he must have taken Blair Yu and her mother out for dinner that evening. Clearly, since I wasn't cooking for them anymore, he'd taken them out to eat before coming home. He didn't bring anything back for me at all. Seems like I never even crossed his mind. That evening, neither of us spoke. We each retreated to our own rooms. I tidied up my room, holding the admission letter from Southwest University in my hands, my heart surging with excitement. I feel much more relaxed now, no matter what. I'm leaving this place to regain my freedom. I sold the books I no longer needed and earned 50 yuan, which can cover my travel expenses to Southwest University. I'm packing my luggage in the room. Kye-jeong was knocking on the door outside. I locked the door from the inside, not wanting him to interfere with my plans. Nova, why did you lock the door? What are you doing in there? I'm tired and want to rest. Don't disturb me, I said casually. Listen to me. Blair Yu's husband was my good friend, after he died in a car accident. It was only right for me to take on the responsibility of looking after his wife and daughter. What a shameless man. Even if you're looking after someone's wife, you shouldn't keep her by your side like that. The care is simply meticulous. If your friend finds out, they'd be thanking your ancestors for 8 generations. It's alright, I'm not angry with her. I understand you. Go back and rest, I said to him very politely. I know he's trying his best to keep me steady. He also knows where else he could find free labor like me. In my past life, I believed him when he thought this way in his heart. In this life, it's absolutely impossible. I'll accompany you back for a trip, said Kye-jeong. He still doesn't know that I'm going home this time to break off the engagement. I was about to speak when suddenly Feng Xiuxiu ran in from outside and said to Kye-jeong, Uncle Jeong, my mom says she's feeling unwell and wants to go to the hospital. Alright. I'll go over right away. He turned to me and said, Nova, frowning. I instinctively waved my hand and said, go ahead, I can get home by myself. The commotion outside had ceased, pausing for a brief moment. Alright, I'll be back soon. The sound of him closing the door was heard. Kye-jeong glanced out the window, looking downstairs, and saw him hurriedly leading Feng Xiuxiu toward the building across the street. I know he definitely won't come back tonight. This isn't the first time this has happened. Blair Yu was too embarrassed to come find Kye-jeong herself, so she sent her daughter to look for him instead. I was wondering, since Blair Yu rents a single room, where would Kye-jeong sleep if he doesn't come back at night? Could 3 people really sleep in one bed? If the 2 of them made too much noise at night, wouldn't it disturb Xiuxiu's sleep? I couldn't be bothered with those embarrassing matters. The next day, early in the morning, I took my packed luggage and hurried back home. After arriving home, I told my parents about my decision to break off the engagement. My parents were stunned and looked at me in disbelief, thinking they had misheard. You heard me right. I really want to break off the engagement with him, I said firmly. How could you do this? Jeong graduated from university and found a stable job in the city. He's a good man. How could you? My father said angrily, puffing on his pipe. Smoke billowed from his mouth and nose with every word he spoke. Yes, child, you two grew up playing together since you were little, childhood sweethearts. Their family is quite satisfied too, so you should just live happily together. My mother comforted. I shook my head. You mustn't think this way anymore. You have no idea. After you left, I suffered for a lifetime. I really don't want to repeat the same mistake. Mom and Dad, what era are we in now? Arranged childhood marriages are outdated. People might seem fine when they're young, but they can change as they grow up. Just look at the Zhang family behind our house. Everyone used to praise their son, saying he'd surely make something of himself when he grew up. But in the end, he turned to reckless behavior, even trying to rob a bank with a kitchen knife. Only to be shot dead on the spot by armed police. I spoke earnestly to my parents. So you're saying Jeong has changed? My father put down his tobacco pipe and stared at me as he asked. My dad was still sharp. He caught on immediately. I nodded with a pout and told my parents about his relationship with Blair Yu. That can't be. Maybe Jeong was just being kind, wanting to help a poor mother and daughter, my mother said. My mother is kind-hearted and genuine, always thinking the best of people, but nowadays, people are more terrifying than ghosts, nothing like what she imagines. I can't tell them how I died in my past life. They wouldn't believe me anyway. They just think I'm crazy. My dad lowered his head and took a couple of puffs on his cigarette. Marriage is a major event that concerns Nova's entire life. We can't just settle. I believe what Nova says, since it can't work out. There's no need to force it. After speaking, my dad tapped the pipe against the sole of his shoe, stood up, and said to my mom, take the engagement agreement, along with the betrothal gifts they gave our family, and return everything to them. I was so happy I nearly jumped for joy. My parents still loved me dearly, knowing that forcing such a marriage to continue would be extremely unfair to me. My mother sighed and dug out the marriage contract and the betrothal gifts from the Jiang family from the bottom of the chest. Back then, the betrothal gifts weren't much, only 500 yuan. Looking back now, I realize how cheaply I was valued at that time. My parents took me to Jeong's house. His home wasn't far from mine, just across an alley. My parents told Jeong's parents about the matter. Jeong's parents were very surprised upon hearing it. Father Jiang asked, why call off the engagement? Jeong has already joined a company now, and I heard he's doing well with a high salary. Your Nova would practically be marrying up by joining our family. I smiled and said, I'm afraid we can't reach that high. Mother Jiang, sensing something in my words, pressed further. Has Jeong taken a liking to another woman? Pretty much, I nodded in reply. Nova, what on earth is going on? Mom Jiang asked with concern. I told Jeong's parents the whole story without holding anything back, saying what needed to be said. After hearing my account, Jeong's parents remained silent for a long time. Then, Dad Jiang sighed and said, a grown son is no longer under his father's control. Since that's the case, we'll respect our child's wishes. And so, our family called off the engagement with the Jiang family. At that moment, I finally let out a deep sigh of relief, feeling much lighter, like a bird set free. As Jeong's parents saw us out the door, I turned back to take one last look at the elderly couple. In my past life, I had served them for 17 years. Jeong said his parents were in poor health and asked me to take our son back to the countryside to care for them. I, listened to Jeong's words, returned to the countryside with my son, working the fields while serving the elderly and taking care of my child. 17 years passed just like that, one after another. I bid farewell to Jeong's parents, fulfilling his filial duties on his behalf. Ah, what a wretched fate. I watched as Jeong's parents supported each other while seeing us off, and I waved at them. Farewell, just don't pester me anymore. Better let your son find a daughter-in-law to take care of you, fetching chamber pots and bedpans. Looking back now, why was my past self so foolish? I spent 10 days with my parents, then said goodbye to them as I prepared to return to the city. My parents accompanied me all the way to the village bus stop. Their eyes filled with worry, they kept chattering on and on, telling me to go back and talk things over properly with Jeong, and not to argue. The elderly couple even stuffed $500 they had painstakingly saved into my pocket, which I only discovered after boarding the car. I waved to the old couple through the car window, reassuring them not to worry. I secretly made up my mind to work hard and earn money, so I could bring them to the city and let them enjoy a happy retirement. I returned to the city, opening the door. I saw K Jeong and Blair Yu, mother and daughter, sitting together in the living room, chatting and laughing happily. When they saw me return, all three faces simultaneously showed expressions of surprise and annoyance. This kind of annoyance was something I had experienced in my past life. Back then, my son was also there. Thankfully, that little troublemaker hasn't been born yet. However, I won't let him be born here with me. Why did you come back so soon? K Jeong asked with an unhappy expression. Blair Yu nodded at me reservedly, then stood up and took Shosho into my room. I frowned as I watched her close the door to my room. I'm here to get my things. Don't worry, I won't disturb your happy life anymore, I said coldly. What? K Jeong asked in surprise. What do you mean by that? I walked into my room and saw that it had already been taken over by Blair Yu. My things are gone. And her stuff is in their place. K Jeong followed in. You weren't home these past few days, so Blair Yu stayed here temporarily, K Jeong explained urgently. No, it's nothing. I don't mind at all. Let her stay here. I was just about to move out anyway. Where are my things? I asked. In the living room, he said in a low voice. I pushed past him and walked out of the room. Seeing my belongings haphazardly piled in the living room, I turned to look at K Jeong. He had a somewhat ashamed expression on his face. Nova, don't misunderstand. I heard that the building where Blair rented had a break-in, and she was scared, so I let her and her daughter stay here temporarily. I saw you weren't here, and there weren't many of your things, so I let her stay in your room for the time being. I didn't expect you to come back without calling me first, so, without my consent, they cleared out my things to make room for someone else. I ignored him and lowered my head to start packing my things. Don't be so impulsive, okay? I know you're jealous. K Jeong said shamelessly. Jealous? I let out a soft scoff. We're already engaged. Her husband is my friend. Who else is going to take care of her if not me? Nova, you should have a little compassion. Okay. K Jeong continued to sweet-talk me. In my past life, I would have believed his words. I might even have been moved by his kindness. In my previous life, it was under the spell of his beautiful lies that I foolishly served him for free my entire life. Don't flatter yourself. Our engagement has been called off. I handed him the annulment document. He took it in a panic, unfolded it to look, and his face suddenly turned deathly pale. How could this be? I didn't agree. So it doesn't count, he shouted angrily. We were never actually married. It was just an arranged childhood betrothal. Legally, it doesn't count as marriage at all, I said indignantly. Even if I married him, I'd have to leave him as soon as possible. To me, he is nothing but a demon and a curse. Nova, let's talk this through properly. Okay, if you see anything wrong with me, just say it. K Jeong immediately changed his tone, pleading. I suddenly came to my senses. It turns out that everything I did in my past life was all part of a scheme he deliberately set up for me. The purpose of marrying me was solely to bear him a son and take care of his parents. He knew his parents' health was poor and that in the future, he would need someone as gullible as me to support them. Meanwhile, he could happily live his life outside with that Blair Yu. I saw clearly his ugly face and couldn't suppress the anger in my heart. My eyes blazing with fury, I swung my arm and gave him a resounding slap. The sharp slap sent him spinning in place, leaving him dazed and disoriented. Blair Yu and her daughter, hearing the noise, hurried out of the room and peered at us. With Shosho unable to comprehend what was happening, Blair Yu reached out, pulled Shosho into the room, and gently closed the door. I heard Shosho asking, Mom, what's wrong with Uncle and Auntie? Uncle and Auntie are playing a game. Don't go telling the other kids. Okay, Blair Yu whispered. K Jeong covered his face with his hands, staring at me in shock. He's always the one who calls the shots. And I never dared to resist, but today, I actually gave him a hard slap. The slap left him stunned, unable to snap out of it for a long time. Consider this slap as repayment for what I endured in my past life. Get out, I said, pointing at the door. K Jeong was stunned by my imposing manner and felt fear in his heart. He had never seen me so furious before. How could he know that I had lived a past life? One where he had ruined me for a lifetime. He backed away in terror. Retreating out of the room, only when he reached the doorway did he realize this was his own home. He scurried into his room and shut the door behind him. Like a frightened mouse, he had fled into the safety of his burrow. It turns out he's the type who bullies the weak but fears the strong. In my past life, I regarded him as a mountain to lean on, only to find out it was a paper mountain, unreliable, collapsing at the slightest touch. I packed up my belongings and walked out the door. When I reached downstairs, I looked up at the place I once called home and saw K Jeong and Blair Yu standing by the window, watching me. Feng Xiaoxiao still didn't know what had happened. A relieved and joyful smile appeared on Blair Yu's face. Ha, laugh while you can. She still doesn't know how this will end. The day will come when you'll be the one crying. I finally left that scumbag, and with him, the misfortune of my past life. Stepping out the door, my body felt as if a weight had been lifted. Much lighter, like a bird freed from its cage, ready to spread its wings and fly far away. After years of hard study at Southwest University, I achieved outstanding grades. The university wanted to keep me on as a lecturer, but I politely declined. I have my own aspirations and don't want to be constrained by others, even if it's that extremely stable job. After graduation, I joined a foreign-funded company. Through several years of hard work, I quickly rose to the position of regional general manager. Coincidentally, the sector I was responsible for included that familiar city. Since I'm back, I'm going to stay. Take things as they come. I bought a house in the city and planned to bring my parents to live there. After arranging my work, I drove back to the village. The village now has paved asphalt roads, and I drove my car into the village. The villagers, seeing me behind the wheel of a luxury car worth over $1 million, stopped to point and whisper, "Whose family does this belong to? Driving such a car, must be someone wealthy. That looks like the Jing family's daughter, Nova. I heard she was originally betrothed to the Jiang family since childhood, but that Jiang boy pulled a chin shimmy and abandoned Nova. Now look at her, she's made a fortune. The Jiang family must be kicking themselves with regret." Absolutely. I heard the wife from the Jiang family is nothing good either. What's wrong? My car slowly moved forward as I listened to the villagers' discussions outside, but as the car drove farther away, their voices gradually became indistinct. I no longer have any connection with Ke Jiang, and I would rather avoid him if possible. I have not the slightest interest in the Jiang family's affairs. It's like a nightmare to me. After waking from the nightmare, I never want to recall that past again. As I passed by the Jiang family's house, I couldn't help but glance over. Seeing their door tightly shut, the courtyard so dilapidated it seemed uninhabited. I remember in my past life at this time, I was bustling about serving Ke Jiang's parents, while Jiang Hanyang played with toys in the yard. The neighbors all praised me, saying the Jiang family had accumulated virtue in a past life to find such a virtuous daughter-in-law. At that moment, I was still very happy, feeling quite pleased. Moral blackmail is truly deadly. If anyone ever praises me like that again in this lifetime, I'll step forward and give them a big slap. In reality, the person who said those words had ulterior motives. Seeing someone else's daughter-in-law working like an ox or a horse, she felt extremely resentful. They were saying this for their own daughters-in-law to hear, urging them to follow my example. This reminded me of the chastity archways that ancient people specifically erected for women. Later, I learned from my parents that after I broke up with Ke Jiang, he married Blair Yu. Ke Jiang wasn't originally in a hurry to get married. He still hoped I would change my mind and return to be his slave. Unexpectedly, he lost control and got Blair Yu pregnant. Left with no other choice, he had to marry her because of the child. Looking back now, he was truly a cunning person. Fortunately, in this life I woke up and stayed far away from him. However, any woman who ends up with someone like him is bound to have terrible luck, but as the saying goes, there's always someone who can outmatch another. Later, I heard that Blair Yu gave birth to a son for him. I secretly rejoiced in my heart. This is great. This scumbag son was actually born by Blair Yu. Only then did I feel relieved in my heart. Ke Jiang's parents are in poor health. Father Jiang was often an alcoholic, which eventually led to him suffering a stroke, leaving him bedridden. With Mother Jiang taking care of him by his side, Mother Jiang's health wasn't good either, and before long, she also fell ill. Mother Jiang called Ke Jiang, crying and making a scene, demanding that he return to take care of his elderly parents. Ke Jiang had no choice but to ask Blair Yu to bring their child and come over to take care of his parents. Blair Yu was utterly unwilling in her heart, but couldn't resist Ke Jiang's daily nagging in her ear. Blair Yu had no choice but to bring the two children to the Jiang family's home. Ke Jiang's parents lay on the bed like zombies, the room dim and filled with a foul stench. It made it impossible for me to breathe. The two children had never seen such a scene before and cried out, begging to leave this place. Blair Yu had even less desire to stay here any longer. She knew all too well in her heart that if she were tied down here, her life would be as good as over. The next morning, Blair Yu grumbled and cursed as she took the two children back to the city. The whole house is covered in piss and shit. How am I supposed to take care of this? You're their son, you go take care of it. Blair Yu snapped at Ke Jiang as soon as she got home. Ke Jiang knew Blair Yu's temper. Once she refused to do something, No amount of sweet talk could change her mind. Besides, the reality was right in front of him. Blair, you wasn't as foolish as I was in my past life. Obediently following his every word like I did, Kei-jeong had no choice. Since he couldn't take time off work to care for his elderly parents, he deliberately procrastinated and ignored their needs. Seeing that their son was neglecting them, Jong's parents hired people and a car to take them to Kei-jeong's workplace. At the entrance of Kei-jeong's workplace, Jong's father lay on the ground, while his mother sat on the ground. They cursed Kei-jeong as an ungrateful wretch, accusing him of abandoning them after they had raised him, supported him, and paid for his college education, only for him to neglect them in their illness. Kei-jeong's supervisor originally intended to promote him to department manager, but after his parents' disruptive behavior caused a terrible impression, the supervisor abandoned the idea of promoting him and ordered him to treat his elderly parents better. Helpless, Kei-jeong had no choice but to rent a single room near his home and move his parents in. He worked during the day and took care of his parents at night. When I heard about this, I secretly laughed to myself. What Kei-jeong is doing now is what I did in my past life. The suffering he endures now is also what I endured in my past life. Fortunately, I've avoided it in this life. By avoiding him, I've avoided all these things. A few more years passed, and I resigned to start my own business. Establishing an electronics company. Over the years, I made a fortune. I also found someone who loves me. At a class reunion, I heard classmates say that Kei-jeong got divorced. Blair, you married Kei-jeong's supervisor, Director Wang, and took their daughter Shosho with her. Director Wang, also a divorcee, had long been drooling over Blair Yu's beauty and alluring figure, taking advantage of Kei-jeong's absence while he was caring for his parents. Director Wang seized the opportunity to step in and care for Blair Yu in Kei-jeong's place, with Kei-jeong rarely able to return home due to his parental duties. The lonely Blair Yu couldn't resist Director Wang's advances and ended up in bed with him. During one of his rare visits home, Kei-jeong walked in on Director Wang and Blair Yu engaged in a game of human stacking on the bed. Kei-jeong was furious upon seeing this, and Director Wang fled in panic. Kei-jeong had a big fight with Blair Yu and went through divorce proceedings. Blair Yu left their son Jiang Hanyang with him. Once, when I went to the trade center with my fiancé Zhao Qifeng, I saw Kei-jeong and his son setting up a stall by the roadside. It turned out that he had already been dismissed by Director Wang on some pretext. The reason was that during a company gathering, Kei-jeong, fueled by his resentment over Director Wang stealing his wife, got drunk and publicly berated Director Wang, even going so far as to physically assault him. As a result, in a fit of anger, Director Wang fired him the very next day. Kei-jeong returned home, seething with rage, and vented his anger by yelling at his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Jeong, cursed them for not dying sooner, ruining his life. Not long after, Jeong's parents died in depression. In their previous life, the elderly couple lived 17 years longer than now. When I saw Kei-jeong, I could hardly recognize him. The once handsome face has now aged considerably, with a 30-year-old man sporting many white hairs. If one isn't paying attention, they might mistake him for a man in his 50s or 60s. I remember in my past life, even in his 50s, his hair remained jet black and shiny, just like a 30-year-old's, yet at that time, my own hair was completely white. Such is the irony of fate. Past and present are indeed different. If I hadn't decisively and wisely left him, perhaps I would have become a substitute. Nova, is that you? Kei-jeong looked up and saw me, rushing over recklessly to embrace me. I pushed him away. Who are you? I demanded sharply. I'm Kei-jeong. Don't you recognize me? At that moment, my fiancé Zhao Qifeng rushed over and shielded me behind him. What's going on? Zhao Qifeng asked. I didn't answer him. Instead, I said to Kei-jeong, this is my fiancé. We're already engaged, and we're very much in love. You'd better stay away from me. Darling, I'll tell you about my past later. I turned and said to Zhao Qifeng, alright. Zhao Qifeng replied, putting his arm around me as we walked toward the commercial building. I heard Kei-jeong fall to his knees, wailing, what sin did I commit in my past life for heaven to punish me like this? Nova, if there's a next life, I swear I'll treat you right. I let out a soft hum. No, in the next life, please don't let me see you again. Let's part forever. The second year after marriage, I sat in the villa facing the sea. I glanced at Zhao Qifeng beside me, covering my slightly protruding belly, and asked, do you hope for a boy or a girl? A girl, I nodded. Me too. As heaven decrees, I gave birth to a girl, very adorable. After seeing her, my parents said, she looks just like I did when I was little. 17 years later, My daughter had already grown up, graceful and beautiful, becoming more and more lovely, and very filial to me, just as I was to my parents. My parents are already 80 years old, yet they remain very healthy and strong. They just returned from a trip to New Zealand, now living with me. The elderly couple are happy every day, free from any worries, peacefully enjoying their twilight years. One day, as I drove past the shabby neighborhood where I once lived with Kei Jiang, I saw Kei Jiang being beaten black and blue by a young man who looked very much like him, howling in pain. I stopped the car and asked the person next to me what was going on. The one hitting him is his son, Jiang Hanyang. He wanted his father to buy him a house for marriage, but his father couldn't afford it, so he beat him up. Ah, what a sin. Exactly, what sins did this man commit in his past life? Passers-by were buzzing with discussions. Only I know what sins he committed in his past life. I had no interest in watching and drove off to pick up my daughter from school.